Hey everyone, Usman here, back with another video. I'm going to be doing a review for the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. As I mentioned before, I usually, I'm trying to go back into doing like, the retro movie reviews or just, for reviews for movies that I've, Marvel movies that I haven't seen before, that type of deal. So I'm actually going to be doing a review for this film. Believe it or not, this movie's about 7 years old because it came out in 2015. So it's a 7-year-old movie. It's not like 20 years old or anything like that, so it's fairly young. And on top of that, it's also a movie I've never seen before. I've always seen clips or whatever of this film, but I never actually saw it, as well as the movies that I've, watched and everything like that, that I've watched, like, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and Hulk 2003. I've seen those movies beforehand. I'm just going back and rewatching them after many, many years, so that's kind of what it is. With this movie in particular, I never saw Fantastic Four, so this is a different sort of thing for me. So I'm actually going to be reviewing it, giving my thoughts, all that type of stuff. Before I do any of that, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as just leave a comment letting me know anything about just anything. Do you like some of the content I have on this channel? Do you like the Fantastic Four? Did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? Anything like that, let me know down below in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, also, I was about to cover Comic-Con, but I had some technical difficulties, like, the Comic-Con Marvel Studios panel. I wish I could have covered that, but I didn't because I had some technical difficulties, that type of deal. Also, I'm back to sitting down again. I wish I could go back and stand up, but, it is what it is. Hopefully in the future I can do something like that, but for now, I'm just going to stick to this. Big announcements: Daredevil, Falcon and Winter Soldier, that type of stuff. 2 Avengers movies in the same year. I think that's amazing. I can't wait to see what goes on. You know me as a Marvel fan, of course I'm going to be raving about all this kind of stuff anyway, so, I'm going to be ecstatic to see it. So I can't wait to see what they do, and, Marvel, always, as usual, I'm always super yes. So Fantastic Four is actually coming out in late 2024, so I think November of 2024 is when they're going to release it, so that's going to be exciting for all those comic book fans out there, including me. Again, also let me preface this, which leads me into my review. I've never really been like a giant fan of these characters. I always thought these characters were kind of, lack of a better term, lame. Their powers are not that interesting to me, as well as at the same time I was like, they can get beaten up really quickly by Spider-Man and all these other characters like they were sort of in the comics. So I never really thought these characters were that great, but they were Marvel's first family, one of the first creations of Stan Lee. Came out before Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff. I don't know, I just never thought they were that interesting, but I don't know, I gave their cartoons and even some of their movies a shot, and they were okay. They were just something I saw when I was younger, and I was like, oh cool, Marvel, superheroes. That's really what I guess I attached to in that regard. I wanted to watch the 2015 version because I never saw it. Saw the other ones from the mid-2000s and everything like that. So why not? And yeah, in terms of that movie, after watching it for my first time ever, it's not really good. It's not like as bad as probably something like Venom 2 or something like that or whatever, but it's not as good as something like, I don't know, maybe the first Venom or even Morbius. I think I found Morbius even more interesting than this movie. This movie had very interesting concepts and stuff like that, but I don't feel like it really did it that well. I mean, it was just kind of like, okay, Reed Richards, scientist, very smart at a young age. He was okay, just showcasing the origin of that and him being friends with Ben Grimm and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they illustrated that stuff pretty well, I guess. The beginning of this movie was fine. Like, that stuff I just mentioned was okay. It was good. Good sort of introductory sort of showcasing of, like, basically how did these characters meet, who they are, that type of deal, and when they grow up and everything like that. So yeah, and showing some of the characters. And some of the dynamics between the characters were fine. I just feel like the characters, like, the actors were too young to play these characters. I feel like if they were a little bit more older, kind of like they were in the back then when they made these characters, I feel like it would have made much more sense. But I knew they were wanting to go for like a younger sort of thing. But I just feel like if they were a little bit more older, it would have been a little bit more sort of easier to gravitate towards a little bit. But it's something interesting. They wanted to do something different, and that's fine. Yeah, I think some of the acting is alright. I feel like with Reed Richards, with Miles Teller, some of the acting he gives is alright. It's not bad. But then sometimes I feel like with some of the line delivery, he kind of just doesn't seem like he kind of gives that emotionality at times. He's like, Doom, no, or it's like, oh no, Ben, no. No, it's just like he doesn't give that sort of emotion. Some points he does, some points he doesn't. So it's like, take it or leave it. All the others are fine. Kate Mara was okay as Invisible Woman. She was okay. She wasn't bad. And Michael B. Jordan, I feel like he kind of gave a little bit more of a sort of comedic and a little bit more of a performance that had more like personality compared to the others, which I thought was interesting. And everybody else was okay. Dr. Doom was the villain in this film. Dr. Doom is not great in this at all, really. I mean, they made him like, the antagonist and everything, and he's like jealous of Sue and Reed and all that stuff, and he had a crush on Sue and everything, and he's like, Reed, no, and it's okay. And also like his motivation or something when he gets sent to the other world or something, it's dumb. It doesn't really make any sense. And, he just becomes evil for no reason because he's like, oh, this planet is terrible. Human evolution. Nobody cared about me my whole life, and I have to destroy everything. And so he just becomes a killer for no reason, really. So it just makes no sense. And then, I don't know, the design doesn't look great, but the reason I guess his design is the way it is because his suit for his spacesuit was melded to his body after he was exposed to that kind of radiation. So the origin of how they got their powers is, a little bit different, but it's something I don't mind as much because I'm like, you know what? Radiation, always exposed, it's whatever. They kind of added some tension and all that kind of stuff on that planet when they were running away, and gave them the powers and everything. So yeah, but I guess that was sort of the case in the original comics maybe, but I don't know. I liked it. The suits were not great. I kind of wish they gave him the 4 on there and it was blue, but I don't know. Maybe they were going to give them eventual suits in the sequel, but never happened. The Thing, I think the CGI with The Thing is actually not bad. I like that they CG'd him in this movie compared to what he was like in the mid-2000s films with an actor named Michael Chiklis. He had to wear they had to put makeup on him and put like a suit type of thing, and he was just too short and not like the big thing like they had like the Hulk size or whatever. But the way that they did it in the movie, I thought it was not bad. It was actually kind of decent. Just the way what they did it with that. So the CG was actually not bad. And, I hope they do that in the future Fantastic Four film, which I think Marvel will do. So that's what's going to happen. But at least back then they kind of went practical a little bit. But, whatever. I just thought he was too short and the Thing has to be a big sort of giant rock monster. I mean, it's easy plot, that type of thing. Nothing too convoluted or anything like that. Honestly, they got their powers a little late in the movie, and also they had about a half an hour. And I looked about a half an hour until they actually had to do the whole final battle thing and fight Doom and everything. And it was just very rushed. And also the fight scenes at times were okay, but then sometimes it was just kind of not that great when they were fighting Doctor Doom at the end. It was very disappointing in terms of the finale for that. And they were like, oh, making references to Fantastic Four, and it's like, oh, that's fantastic for when they're coming up for a team name, and I was like, Bottom line, I think I've mentioned this before, I'm not really a big fan of these characters. Spider-Man's better, Daredevil, Iron Man, all those other creations that Stan Lee co-created, I just thought he did a better job with those compared to what they did with Fantastic Four. But I think if I remember clearly, he wanted to compete with the Justice League back then, so that's kind of why he made it the way it was. But honestly, these are not really my favorite. But I am intrigued to see what they do with what the MCU will do with the Fantastic Four in a couple years from now, and see what they can do, what kind of flavor they'll add to this. What they can do to spice up these characters and make them much more interesting and fun. And I think the tone of the MCU movies actually sort of blends in well with the tone of these characters anyways, because people always complain about this stuff with Marvel. So I think it will blend in well. So that's what I appreciate the most. Score, really non-existent, I guess. There was another movie that this director directed. It was called Chronicle. I saw a long time ago. And I think I liked that movie. It was good. It had one of the other guys, Michael B. Jordan. Like I said, he was a good fit in it. And I think I liked it. But then when he directed this movie, it was just not the best. In terms of Ben Grimm is kind of just I like the original actor who played him in the mid-2000s, Michael Chiklis. I think he's a better actor, and the way that he played Ben Grimm was he gave much more of a personality to Ben Grimm compared to this other actor, Jamie Bell or whatever. Yeah, this movie's kind of just generic, not great. It's better than something like the Venom 2 to me, in my opinion. Not as good as I thought. Morbius was actually better because there was I don't think it's like a giant train wreck of a movie, but it's not really good. But also, it doesn't really help that I have a sort of history of me not really liking these characters as much. But at the same time, it's like I just just not really the best. So I would say not the worst of the worst. It was all right, forgettable. For sure. I guess I would say probably the other mid-2000s Fantastic Four movies were a little bit better. I'm going to hope for the best that the new Fantastic Four movie, that the MCU will be better and have much more sort of energy and excitement compared to these old ones. And I wish they kind of just went with an older cast, not the younger ones. I mean, they do a fine job, but Franklin Storm or whatever, the guy who was the father to Sue and Johnny, he was not bad in the film. He had a small part. He did okay, I guess. Not really a lot to anything in this movie. I don't know if I would rewatch this movie again. At times I even got bored. I was just like, I'm going to tune out a little bit. But yeah, I don't know if I would recommend entirely watching this film. It's up to you if you want to, if you're not, whatever. That's all I would say in regards to that. But it's not like the train wreck of a movie. It's like it's the worst thing in human history. People tend to exaggerate that kind of stuff, and for me, I'm just like, you know what? If you like the Fantastic Four, but yet you want to see something different on the origin story, by all means, I guess go for that. They sort of adhere to a little bit of the origin story, / they don't. And spoiler, I guess if it matters, this movie's like 7 years old. They go to this planet called Planet Zero, which is basically where they get their powers. Or dimension, whatever. And I think that dimension / planet, whatever, is the negative zone, which I think Reed Richards sort of crafts in the comics. Where I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, that he builds it's like a prison of some sort for all these big sort of supervillains in a way. Not the Raft or anything, but like something else. So I think they'll bring in the negative zone into the MCU. I plan on doing more retro movie reviews as well. Stay tuned for that. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.